लड़की अपनी लाइफ को अपनी फ्रीडम से क्यों नहीं जी सकती और अपने फ्रीडम से शादी क्यों नहीं कर सकती है। शादी कोई बुरी चीज़ नहीं है। जब मैंने उसको शादी के लिए मना किया, वो 32 साल का था और मैं 15 साल की थी। तो मैं उस टाइम पे अपने सपनों को जी रही थी और मेरी कोई एज नहीं थी शादी की और मैं शादी के बारे में सोचती भी नहीं थी। उसने मुझे शादी के लिए प्रपोज़ किया था और जब मैंने मना किया, उस लड़के ने और उसके छोटे भाई की गर्लफ्रेंड ने मिलके वहाँ पे बियर की बॉटल में एसिड लेके आए थे और ग्लास लेके आए थे और ग्लास में डाल के उन्होंने सीधे मेरे फेस पे एसिड डाल दिया। फिर वहाँ पे मैं बेहोश हो गई और जब मैं होश में आई तो मुझे ऐसा लगा किसी ने मुझे ज़िंदा आग लगा दिया हो। उसने मुझे जान से नहीं मारा, उसने मुझ पे अटैक किया कि मैं ज़िंदगी भर तड़पूंगी और उसको भी ये बात पता थी कि जो सोसाइटी है वो उसको एक्सेप्ट कर लेगी और मुझे रिजेक्ट कर देगी, मुझे विक्टिमाइज करेगी।
In December 2012, we had a horrific gang rape of a young woman on a bus in Delhi. She took a bus with this male friend of hers at 8 p.m. in a place in Delhi which is considered quite normal, not a dangerous place. There were a few people on the bus, but she didn't realize that those people were part of a gang. And what they did was beat her male friend up, tied him, and then went on to gang rape her several times in the moving vehicle. They inserted metal rods into her body, pulled out her intestines, and then threw her out on the street, leaving her to die. It was an inflection point in the country. It brought into the public domain the conversations on sexual violence.
I think he was always worried, for us to come home safe. And he gave us like pepper spray.
Really?
Yeah.
Your parents, everybody's parents should force accountability in making the streets safer. I'm from a family where my father was an alcoholic and, we were victims of domestic violence. And so I felt at some point when I was financially independent, I would like to work on women's rights. And then once the gang rape took place, then that was really the impetus for me to focus on sexual violence in public spaces.
I imagine, and how I experience it as well, is that there's a lot of shame put on the victim, and
Yes.
it's not necessarily encouraged that you speak up.
So I must admit that before I started doing this work, I had not shared my story. And once I started doing this work, I said to myself, if I'm expecting someone else to tell their story, then I should be ready to tell mine.
And I think that's also what you want to achieve on the big scale with your organization, right? You want to give women the power to voice what has happened to them and to share their stories.
Absolutely, because we are talking about young girls who feel they can achieve anything and they
Yeah.
are fearless and they they don't see the differences between them and a boy. But somewhere as they are growing up, society put those pressures in, puts those pressures to say you won't be safe if you do this, you can't do this, you must not go out in the night, etc. And what we are trying to do with Safe City is to say you can do anything. It's not your fault if something happens to you. And as a society, as a collective, as a community, we need to address it. In order to break the silence around sexual violence, we provide an anonymous platform for people to share their stories. And this allows them to document their experiences, which then forms a database where you can understand the location-based trends and patterns of what is happening where.
There was no guilty in his eyes. The streets are never safe.
I just pushed him away and asked him to get out from my life.
There was this one kind of cousin.
I didn't have that strength to share it with my family or tell someone else that.
It started by shaking hands. I remember myself mumbling constantly, "Stop it, stop it, stop it." And this person, he kept saying, "It'll be fun, it'll be fun, you'll enjoy it, it'll be fun, it's love." Physical intimacy freaks me out even today. The idea, the concept of sex disgusts me because I just cannot get the image of this 50-year-old man sexually harassing me, abusing me as a child out of my mind. My mother said, "You shouldn't have opened the door." Well, I did open the door. It did happen to me. But it did not make me a victim. It never could. I am still a survivor. I will always be. And no matter how much it haunts me, no matter how scared I am, even now, I still have the courage to face the world and tell them that this happened to me and yet be unfazed, because now I know it was not my fault.
I have been very lucky that I had never to experience real violence. I think there's probably no woman out there that hasn't experienced some form of sexual harassment, you know, be it a staring, be it inappropriate comments, but that's of course a different level. Every woman who has to experience violence is one too many, and there's so many of them on a global level. I work a lot with social entrepreneurs all around the world. So coming here, my key question is, how can we really use technology to create change in a topic that is so complex, so deeply rooted in mindsets and cultures and behaviors that often exist for generations. It is about dominating the other. In essence, women are considered worth less than men. Women are considered to be weaker, they have to be nice. They're almost treated like objects.
And for the man to come up from a society where they were hunter-gatherers to a society where they were the bosses, to be equal, it's become a little difficult. So women are earning more, they're fighting in the same space, and that frustrates men.
I was growing up in an area where my dad comes from a military background. So he wasn't staying with us all the time. So it was me, my mother and my sister. And I was raised by two women, that's what I say. I was raised by my mother and my elder sister, because that's how it happened. And the environment at home was a lot different than outside, because once you go outside, you notice the patriarchy, which you were saying.
Yeah, so you had a pretty strong female role model at home, basically.
I realized that there's some kind of a great disparity, because it started very young. So I was in, I was 10, 12 years old, and I would go out to play in the evening. So I could play till 7:30. My sister had to play till 6:30.
Yeah.
I mean, these were the small things which as a child you notice. Like, why do I get the privilege of an extra hour, or she didn't?
Did you feel that was maybe because your parents were more concerned about security for your sister?
Exactly.
Or is it more,
Even today, right? I mean, it's one of the worst things. But if you have to go out 10:30 in the night to buy something,
Especially if it seems to be normal, right? Then.
So it's normal that women don't travel after 10 in Delhi. It's a new normal. Why is it the normal? Why is no one challenging these things? I mean, it's normal for women not to drive till 2018 in Saudi Arabia. Why is it normal?
Yeah.
I mean, we have to start asking questions why this is the normal.
The idea of forming Leaf was to make 1 billion people safe. That's the moonshot which we're looking to achieve in the next year and a half. So we started working on jewelry, something like this. And it's connected with your smartphone, because your smartphone's in your purse and in your wallet and you can't reach it. But you double press this and it sends an alert to your friends and family. People know that you're in danger, and then they call in the police. They can do few things about it. And that's what we did. So
that was your prototype, first version, basically?
We sold 20,000 units of this. So I mean, it went to the market, and we realized that if things have to work, it has to work without a smartphone. You need something which does not have a smartphone to work with. So we went ahead and made something which was actually bigger. It had its own SIM card.
So that's like the next iteration of your product, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
It has its own SIM card, its own GPS connectivity.
Yeah.
And if you are in problem, all you do is press this. And as soon as you press, it gives a SOS to your friends and family, and people again come in.
Okay.
We realized one major problem. We realized that no matter how much you alert, who's going to respond?
Yeah.
And that's something which we started working on. In our country, the police to population ratio is too huge for us to rely on just on the police. So what we are planning to do is basically build a system where there are responders in place, people who are willing to come forward and help it out. And there's already a market for that. Like, India has a lot of safety security companies. There are over 3,000 companies in Delhi NCR itself. And there are over 7 million people employed in that. So that's where we are pivoting right now to, where we are building a responders network of people who can actually come in and save people out.
The solutions, the apps, the tech, the big data, the artificial intelligence. It can solve certain aspects of the problem. It can contribute to change, but it will not go deep enough to really change mindsets and change perceptions. But changing mindsets and these perceptions, that will take years, maybe decades, maybe generations. And I think it's wrong to wait for that. I think however we can, let's use those technologies to create influence and change at the levels where we can. But let's not think that those are the only solutions. We also have to think about other ways, much more grassroots ways, of how we can change mindsets to end violence against women. There's a superhero, a girl that actually had been raped. That is already a big change in perception, because usually we're talking about the victims. We're not talking about a girl that got raped as a superhero. She is on a mission to free women who have been victims of acid attacks. The whole goal of a man throwing acid on a woman is to force her to feel the shame, the guilt, and to stay in her house for the rest of her life. So they're creating almost like a prison for those women. Because the scars from the acid attacks, it's so visible. Everybody will know that you did something.
I'm Lakshmi from Stop Acid Attacks और मैं एक कैंपेनर हूँ Stop Acid Attacks. टू 2009 में एक बहुत बड़ा चैलेंज लिया कि मैं फेस कवर करके चलती थी और मैंने वो दुपट्टा हटा दिया. मैंने कहा अब मैं फेस कवर करके नहीं चलूँगी. लोग नॉर्मल लोगों को भी नहीं छोड़ते तो लोग मुझे क्या छोड़ेंगे. तो जिसने क्राइम किया वो अपना चेहरा ढके, मैं क्यों अपना चेहरा ढकूं. तो मैंने अपनी ज़िंदगी को एक नया मोड़ दिया. एक अपने, मेरा नाम माना लक्ष्मी है, तो मैंने एक नई लक्ष्मी को अपने अंदर पैदा किया.
What kind of cities are we building? What kind of cities do we want? I think violence against women and sexual harassment today is clearly a global problem. In India, the added dimension probably is the male-dominated nature of public spaces. My vision is to improve the access and the rights of women and girls to access all opportunities in cities around the world. And technology for me is an enabler in that. So SafetyPin is a technology which helps to collect data that allows both women and girls to move more freely in the city. At the same time, it provides data to key urban stakeholders such as city governments to make the changes. In Delhi, we actually used our data to show the government that there was about 7,800 dark spots in the city. Okay. Right? That means patches in the city where absolutely no light.
No street light.
Yeah. So the government has actually used that data to say we will improve the street lights.
Okay.
And then they have now come back to us saying, can you again map the city and tell us now, one, has the lighting been improved? But secondly, are there other problems?
Yeah.
So lighting is only one aspect, right?
And has the lighting improved?
Yes, in certain parts. I think about almost 70% of the points that we pointed out have been fixed.
Wow.
But there are other dark spots, so now we have to go back. You see, the city is a dynamic space.
So Kalpana's app, part of her solution, you have that tracking option. So you can click if you want that somebody can track you. And I think there's two sides to that. One, for the individual who chooses to do that, and you can also choose which contact you want to follow you. So it could also be your mom or anybody that you trust. It enhances this feeling of security because somebody knows I'm going somewhere, and if something happens in between, at least somebody's alert. On the other end, a lot of men use these tools to stalk their partners or ex-partners, and so they can be abused. And of course, we're also producing a lot of data, and sometimes we're not really sure who is using that data and for what purpose. It shouldn't be the norm that a woman has to have a safety tracking installed to be okay to be out there. That cannot be the goal. I feel one of the most horrible facts about violence against women is the fact that it's happening in about 90% of all cases within your family or circle of friends or neighbors. I feel that is one of the saddest facts in this whole story, because it means the place that should be your safe haven is actually not. As a mother, I cannot imagine that I would not speak up and take every action I could if my daughter would tell me that she was touched inappropriately or worse. And change needs to happen on both ends. A woman needs to understand, a girl needs to understand that her boundaries need to be respected and what it means if they get overstepped. And the same is true for men. And I think it's all the more important that we use whatever the means to change those traditional thoughts.
हाँ, वो तो इतना ऊंचा है, वहाँ पे जाके कैसे देखेंगे?
Lakshmi is a true inspiration. She's in the comic book, and she's one of those people who did exactly what's portrayed in that comic book. She stepped out of that prison that was intended for her to be in, and she did the exact opposite.
हाँ, ये क्या है? ये क्या है? और मैंने अपनी ज़िंदगी को चेंज करने पे काम किया, क्योंकि आज जब वो लड़का जेल से बाहर आएगा तो वो ये देखेगा कि मैंने लक्ष्मी को, मैं कल तक जानता था, आज इस लक्ष्मी को पूरी दुनिया जानती है। जो लक्ष्मी कल डरती थी, आज ये लक्ष्मी फाइट करती है। कल तक तो अपने लिए भी नहीं बोलती थी, आज दुनिया के लिए बोलती है। तो ये उसके लिए सबसे बड़ा तमाचा होगा, और इस सोसाइटी के लिए जिन्होंने मुझे बेचारी बोला था।